The moment Martha finished her final note, a stunned silence filled the gymnasium. For a brief instant, no one moved. It was as if the audience could not believe what they had just heard. Then slowly, hands began to clap. At first, the applause was polite, cautious, as if people were testing the magic of her performance. But it grew louder, stronger and more joyful with every passing second. Martha stood still on the stage, her heart pounding, but a smile spread across her face. She had shared something deeply personal, and now she could see that it had reached every heart in the room. The applause swelled, filling every corner of the gym, echoing off the walls like waves of sound. One by one, people began to stand. Children lifted their small hands from their laps, parents rose from their chairs, and even the teachers and judges gave themselves up to the moment, standing in admiration. Soon nearly everyone was on their feet, clapping, cheering, and smiling. The noise was joyful, full of energy, and completely overwhelming. Martha had never imagined such a response. The teenagers who had once joked about Martha could only stare in amazement. Their plan to embarrass her had completely backfired. Now they were witnessing a lesson they would never forget. One of them whispered, "I can't believe she did this. She's amazing." The other nodded, speechless, finally understanding that talent and heart could not be measured by age or appearance. Martha's eyes shone with happiness. She could see the excitement and admiration on every face. People were cheering not just for her voice, but for her courage. She had stepped onto the stage despite doubts, jokes, and fear, and she had shared her gift with the world. Every clap and cheer told her that her song had reached deep into the hearts of the audience. Even the judges were smiling broadly. Mr. Harris, the music teacher, had tears in his eyes as he scribbled notes furiously. He had never seen a performance like this in his entire career. One of the other judges, Mrs. Lopez, nodded repeatedly, whispering, "She deserves every bit of this applause." They had scored countless performances, but Martha's song was more than talent, it was pure emotion and heart. Children ran up to the front of the stage, wanting to be closer to the woman who had amazed them. "That was beautiful," one said excitedly. "You sound like an angel," another whispered, holding her mother's hand. Martha bent slightly to smile at them, her heart swelling with joy. She had not only sung a song, she had inspired hope and happiness in everyone who listened. The applause and cheering continued, growing louder with every passing second. Martha took a small bow, then another, acknowledging the audience's appreciation. She felt a warmth in her heart that words could not describe. All the years of quiet singing, of keeping her voice to herself, had led to this moment, a moment where her gift touched hundreds of lives at once. The standing ovation lasted for several minutes. People clapped, cheered, and called out words of encouragement. Some wiped away tears while others laughed softly in amazement. Martha felt tears forming in her own eyes, not from fear or nervousness, but from pure joy. She had not imagined that sharing a song could feel so powerful and meaningful. Even after the applause began to quiet down, the excitement in the room remained. People were talking in hushed tones, smiling at each other and exchanging looks of wonder. Martha stepped back from the stage, her voice and performance still echoing in the minds and hearts of everyone present. She realized that this day, this moment, had changed something in the town. People would remember not only her voice, but her courage, her talent, and the reminder that age and appearances never define a person's worth. As she left the stage, Martha felt lighter, happier, and more alive than she had in years. Her heart was full, and she knew that the magic of this experience would stay with her forever. The applause, the smiles, and the standing ovation were proof that sharing one's gift, no matter the time or place, could inspire, move, and touch the lives of others in ways that nothing else could. Martha had not just sung a song. She had created a moment that everyone in the gym would remember for a lifetime. Her courage, her talent, and her heart had turned a simple performance into a celebration of life, hope, and beauty. After the standing ovation, Martha stepped off the stage, her hands still trembling slightly from excitement. The applause and cheers still echoed in the gymnasium, filling her heart with warmth. For the first time in many years, she felt truly seen, not just as the quiet old woman from the neighborhood, but as someone who had a gift to share. Children ran up to her, their eyes shining with admiration. "That was amazing," one said. Another whispered, "I want to sing like you when I grow up." Martha bent down to smile at them, feeling a gentle happiness that made her heart swell. She realized that her performance had inspired more than applause. It had sparked curiosity, confidence, and hope in young minds. Parents and teachers approached her as well, congratulating her and praising her courage. "You have such a beautiful voice," one parent said. "And such a kind heart," added another. Even the principal came forward, shaking her hand warmly. "Martha, you have reminded all of us that talent has no age and courage has no limits. Thank you for sharing your gift." The teenagers who had planned to make a joke still stood in the back, looking embarrassed but also full of awe. They had learned a lesson about respect and humility that they would never forget. One of them finally spoke. "We were wrong. You're incredible." Martha smiled at them kindly. She did not need to say anything else. Her performance had already taught them more than any words could. Word of Martha's performance spread quickly through the town. By the next morning, neighbors were stopping by her house to tell her how amazing the talent show had been. Children brought flowers, friends gave her small gifts, and even people who had never spoken to her before came to congratulate her. Martha felt a quiet pride, not from the attention, but from knowing that sharing her voice had touched so many hearts. In the following days, invitations began arriving. Local community centers asked her to perform at gatherings. Schools wanted her to teach children to sing, and even the town hall requested her presence at events. Martha politely accepted, realizing that her life had taken an unexpected and wonderful turn. She had stepped out of her quiet routine and discovered that her talent could inspire and bring joy to many. Martha's mornings changed as well. She no longer spent all her time alone in her house. Instead, she practiced and prepared for her next performances, often with whiskers curled up nearby. She enjoyed the anticipation, the music, and the joy of sharing her gift. Her life felt fuller, brighter, and more meaningful than it had in years. One evening, Martha stood in her garden looking at the colorful flowers she had planted. The sun was setting, casting warm golden light over the town. She thought about the talent show, the standing ovation, and the smiles she had seen. She realized that courage and belief in oneself could create moments of magic, moments that could touch countless lives. Martha felt thankful, not just for the applause, but for the reminder that her voice, her courage, and her heart mattered. The town began to see Martha in a new light. She was no longer just the gentle old woman who walked quietly down the street. She was an inspiration, a symbol of hope, and a living example of how talent and heart could shine at any age. People of all ages started to respect her more, not for what she had done in the past, but for the bravery and beauty she had shown in the present. Martha continued to sing, not to prove anything, but to share joy, hope, and beauty with the world. Every note she sang reminded her and the audience that life could be full of surprises, and that true talent and courage could never be measured by age. The old woman who had once been invited to sing as a joke had now become a cherished voice in the town, one that would inspire hearts for many years to come. As she looked at the sunset, Martha smiled softly. She realized that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. A chapter filled with music, joy, inspiration, and connection. She had discovered that it was never too late to share one's gifts, and that the courage to take a single step could change everything. Martha's voice had not only earned applause, it had earned respect, admiration, and the hearts of everyone who had listened. Her story became a quiet legend in the town. The story of an old woman who sang from her heart and reminded everyone that true beauty, courage, and talent never fade. Martha had not just performed, she had created a new beginning for herself and for everyone who believed in the power of music and the strength of the human spirit. Mina was a young girl of 12, small in size but with a heart bigger than most grown-ups. Her eyes were bright, full of dreams and hope. Even when life had been unkind to her, Mina lived with her mother, Layla, in a tiny house at the edge of the town. Their home was simple, with walls that had started to crack and a roof that sometimes leaked when it rained. Layla had been sick for many months. The doctor had prescribed medicine that was very expensive, and they could barely afford enough to keep her stable. Mina knew that without her mother's medicine, things could get worse, and the thought made her chest ache. Every morning, Mina woke up before the sun rose. She washed her face with cold water, brushed her hair, and tied it into a small braid. She quickly ate a little bread and a cup of tea that her mother had prepared. There was no time to waste. The streets of the town were already coming alive with people going to work, school, or markets. Mina carried her small guitar, which was worn and had scratches from years of use. She would sit on the sidewalk near the busy market. It was not an easy place. Cars honked, people shouted, and the smell of fried food mixed with dust in the air. But Mina did not mind. She had a mission, and nothing could stop her. She sat carefully adjusting the tin cup she had placed in front of her. Her fingers held the strings tightly as she began to play. The first few notes were soft, trembling almost, but slowly her voice found strength. She sang songs she had learned from her mother and some she had made up herself. The songs were about hope, love, and courage. They were simple, but there was emotion in every word. Mina poured all her feelings into her music, and even though she was small, her voice could reach far. People passed by quickly. Some glanced at her but kept walking. Some ignored her completely, their minds filled with their own worries. Mina had learned to not feel sad about this. She knew that many people were busy, and not everyone could stop. Still, she wished that someone would notice her effort and care enough to help. Every coin in her cup mattered because it meant another day her mother could take her medicine. Sometimes the sun was harsh, and Mina's fingers hurt from pressing the strings too long. Sometimes her stomach growled from hunger and she felt weak. Yet she never gave up. She would pause for a few moments, wipe her forehead, take a small sip of water, and then continue playing. Her determination was stronger than her tiredness. She thought about her mother lying in bed too weak to get up, and it gave her strength. She imagined Layla smiling if she could bring home even a small amount of medicine. That thought kept her going. Mina also noticed the small details around her while she played. A child would stop for a moment and watch her hands move on the guitar strings. An old man would smile and nod quietly. She liked to imagine that one day, the right person would hear her and understand her story. She knew it was not just about the coins. It was about love, courage, and keeping hope alive. By noon, her voice grew hoarse and her arms ached, but she kept going. She believed in the power of her songs. Mina's heart was full of hope, and her mind focused on a single thought. I must help my mother. I will find a way. That thought was her fuel, and it made her continue singing every day, even when no one seemed to notice. Mina's small figure on the busy sidewalk looked fragile, but inside she was a warrior. A warrior who had no weapon but her courage, no shield but her love for her mother. Every note she played, every word she sang, was a promise she made to herself she would never give up. And so, the young girl sang, with hope in her heart, dreams in her eyes, and a mission that was bigger than herself. The busy town did not see her yet, but Mina kept believing that one day someone would. And that belief, quiet but strong, made her voice reach further than she could ever imagine. Every morning, Mina followed the same routine. She woke up early while the town was still quiet. The birds sang softly outside her window, and the first rays of sunlight peeked through the cracked curtains. Mina quickly got ready, washing her face with cold water and combing her long braid neatly. She would eat a small breakfast of bread and milk, made by her mother, and then prepare her little guitar for the day. She carried it carefully wrapped in a cloth that was almost as old as the guitar itself. The streets were already coming alive when Mina stepped outside. Shopkeepers were opening their stores, the baker was arranging fresh bread, and street vendors were shouting to sell their fruits and vegetables. Mina walked briskly to her favorite corner near the market. It was the busiest place she could find, and more people passing by meant more chances for coins, even if it was only a few. She always found a spot where she could sit safely, yet be seen by those walking past. Mina placed her tin cup in front of her and sat down on the stone sidewalk. Her fingers gently touched the guitar strings, feeling their texture, feeling the music waiting to come out. She took a deep breath and began to play. At first, the music was soft, delicate, as if she was testing the day, seeing if it was ready to listen. Then she began to sing. Her voice was young, pure, and full of feeling. It carried the story of her love for her mother, her struggles, and her hopes for a better tomorrow. Some people glanced at her as they walked past. A few tossed a coin into her cup, giving a small nod or smile. Mina would look up, say a soft thank you, and return to her song. Even one coin meant a little more medicine, a little more hope. Some mornings no one stopped at all. Mina's heart sometimes sank, but she never let it show. She reminded herself quietly that each day was a chance and she could never give up. While she played, Mina noticed the world around her. Children ran past on their way to school, laughing and holding each other's hands. Elderly people shuffled slowly, carrying bags of vegetables or bread. Dogs barked in the distance, and the wind carried the smell of fresh flowers from a nearby stall. She watched the people with gentle eyes, imagining what stories they might have. Some looked sad, some looked happy, and some seemed to hurry through life too fast to notice anything else. Mina's own life was not easy. Some days were cold, and she had no shoes to protect her small feet from the sharp stones of the sidewalk. Other days were hot, and the sun burned her back as she played. Her stomach often ached from hunger, and her fingers grew sore from pressing the strings for hours. But she kept going. Every note she played, every word she sang was for her mother. That thought gave her strength she did not know she had. By afternoon, Mina would take a small break. She would drink water from a bottle she kept in her bag and eat a piece of bread. Sometimes, she looked at the coins in her tin cup and counted them quietly. It was never enough to buy all the medicine her mother needed, but it was a start. It reminded her that even the smallest effort could make a difference. She thought of her mother lying in bed waiting for her, and it made her heart feel warm despite her tiredness. As the sun moved across the sky, Mina's music changed. She sang more confidently, letting her voice rise and fall like the waves of the river nearby. People passing by sometimes slowed their steps, drawn by the emotion in her voice. Some smiled, some paused for a moment, but most walked on. Mina never felt angry or sad. She understood that life was busy for everyone, and that hope often needed patience. When the sun started to set, Mina packed her guitar carefully and walked back home. Her small feet were tired, her hands sore, but her heart was full. She had given everything she had to the day, and she knew she had done her best. She entered the little house, greeted her mother with a smile, and shared the day's coins. Layla hugged her tightly, whispering, "Thank you, my brave girl. You are my strength." Mina smiled back, feeling proud and determined. She knew that tomorrow would be another day, another chance to sing, another chance to help her mother. And so, Mina's daily routine continued, filled with courage, hope, and a quiet determination that nothing could stop her. One afternoon, the sky turned dark and heavy clouds covered the sun. The wind picked up, blowing leaves and dust across the streets. Mina felt a small shiver run down her spine. She knew rain was coming, but she could not let it stop her. Her mother needed her medicine, and she had no choice but to keep going. Mina carried her small guitar to the corner of the market, where a tiny awning offered some protection from the rain. She placed her tin cup carefully on the wet ground and sat down, brushing raindrops off her sleeve. Her clothes were already damp from the cool wind, and her shoes were soaked from puddles that had formed along the street. Still, she opened her guitar case and strummed a soft melody, letting her voice rise above the sound of raindrops hitting the roof. The rain started lightly at first, pattering gently against the sidewalk. Mina sang songs about hope, songs about love for her mother, and songs she had made up herself. Her voice was soft but strong, carrying through the wet streets. People hurried past with umbrellas, glancing at her with curiosity. Some nodded politely. Some whispered to each other, but no one stopped. The coins in her tin cup remained few, but Mina did not complain. She sang because it was her duty and her love that gave her courage. As the rain became heavier, Mina's fingers ached from gripping the strings of her guitar. Her hair stuck to her face and her shoes squished with every movement. She felt tired, but she refused to give up. "I must keep going," she whispered to herself. She thought about her mother lying in bed, coughing and weak. The thought of helping Layla gave her strength, stronger than the cold or the rain. Mina noticed a small boy holding his mother's hand as they walked past. He stopped for a second, staring at her with wide eyes. His mother gently tugged him forward, saying something softly, and they continued on their way. Mina smiled at the boy, her heart warmed for a moment. Even in the rain, even when people did not stop, there were small moments that reminded her that kindness existed in the world. Hours passed, and the rain continued without mercy. The market began to empty, and fewer people passed by her corner. Mina's voice grew hoarse, and her arms ached from holding the guitar in the damp air. She thought of her mother's medicines and the tiny home they shared. She thought of the warm bread waiting for her at home, and of Layla's smile when she could bring her medicine. Those thoughts kept her going, giving her energy that her tired body could not find. Finally, a middle-aged man with a bright red umbrella stopped near Mina. His name was Omar, and he had been walking through the market with his young daughter, Hannah. He listened quietly to Mina's voice for a few moments, feeling a warmth in his heart. He noticed the determination in her eyes, the courage in her small hands, and the love she carried in her songs. Hana tugged at his sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, she is amazing. Can we help her?" Omar looked at Mina with a kind smile and reached into his pocket. He pulled out some coins and placed them carefully into her tin cup. Mina looked up, surprised and grateful. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. Her voice trembled a little, not from the cold, but from the sudden kindness. Omar nodded, encouraging her to continue her song. For the first time that day, Mina felt seen. As the rain began to slow, Mina played her last few songs for the afternoon. She packed her guitar carefully, her fingers stiff and her clothes wet. Even though she had earned only a few coins, she felt stronger than she had all day. She walked home slowly, feeling the cold rain soak her hair and shoes, but also feeling warmth in her heart. She had kept her promise to her mother. When Mina reached home, Layla hugged her tightly, noticing the wet hair and tired eyes. "You are so brave, my child," she said softly. Mina smiled, feeling proud despite the difficult day. She knew that life would not be easy, but she had learned that courage and love could overcome even the heaviest storms. The next morning, Mina woke up early as usual. The sky was bright and sunlight streamed through the small window of her tiny home. Her mother, Layla, was resting comfortably, feeling better after taking her medicine the day before. Mina smiled as she quietly got ready. She brushed her hair, packed her small guitar, and carefully prepared a piece of bread for her lunch. She wanted to be ready for the long day ahead. Mina walked to the busy street near the market. She reached her usual spot, the corner under the awning where she could play without being disturbed by the sun or rain. She placed her tin cup in front of her and opened her guitar case. Her fingers touched the strings gently, and a soft melody floated through the air. She began to sing, letting her voice carry the story of her love for her mother, her struggles, and her hopes for a better future. The streets were busy that morning. People rushed past, some with shopping bags, others hurrying to work. Mina noticed the usual glances and the hurried steps of people who did not stop. She kept singing, her eyes focused on the small tin cup in front of her. Every coin mattered, and every song she sang was a promise to her mother. Suddenly, a man stopped near her. His name was Omar. He was middle-aged, with a gentle face and kind eyes. He had been walking with his daughter, Hana, who held his hand tightly. Hana was curious and watched Mina play. Omar stood quietly, listening to the soft but strong voice of the young girl. There was something in Mina's singing that touched him deeply. Hana whispered to her father, "Daddy, she sings so beautifully. Look at her. Can we help her?" Omar looked at his daughter and then at Mina. He noticed the determination in her eyes, the careful way she held the guitar, and the love that came through every note she sang. His heart filled with warmth and admiration. Omar reached into his pocket and pulled out a few coins. He placed them gently into Mina's tin cup. Mina looked up surprised. Her voice stopped for a moment and her eyes widened. "Thank you, sir," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. Omar smiled and nodded. "Keep singing, little one. You are very brave," he said kindly. Mina continued her song, her voice stronger than before. She felt encouraged by Omar's kindness and by Hana's admiration. For the first time in a long while, she felt that someone truly noticed her effort and understood her struggle. Her fingers moved more confidently over the guitar strings, and the melody seemed to flow more beautifully than before. Other people passing by began to slow down as well. Some smiled at Mina, some watched silently, and a few dropped coins into her cup. It was not a large amount, but it was more than she had earned on many other days. Mina's heart swelled with gratitude and hope. She realized that kindness, no matter how small, could change a day, even a life. When she finished playing, Omar knelt beside her and spoke gently. "I can see how much you love your mother and how brave you are. This is just a small start, but I want to help you more if I can." Mina felt tears in her eyes. She had never expected so much kindness from a stranger. She nodded, trying to speak, but words failed her. Instead, she offered a small smile, which said more than words ever could. As Mina packed her guitar to leave, she felt stronger, more determined than ever. The kindness of Omar and Hana reminded her that the world still had good people, people willing to help and understand. She walked home carefully, feeling the warmth in her heart, even though the day was still long and full of challenges. When Mina reached home, she told her mother about the kind man and his daughter. Layla smiled and hugged her tightly. See, my child? Your courage is inspiring. Good people notice good hearts even if it takes time, she said softly. Mina nodded, feeling proud and hopeful. From that day on, Mina realized that kindness could appear in unexpected ways, and hope could grow in the smallest moments. Her voice not only carried her love and determination, but also had the power to touch hearts, even those who had never known her before. After meeting Omar and his daughter, Mina felt a spark of hope she had never felt before. That morning, she woke up with a lighter heart, ready to face the busy streets once again. She carefully packed her small guitar, tucked a piece of bread into her bag, and waved goodbye to her mother, Layla. Her mother smiled and whispered, "Remember, my brave girl, hope is always with you." Mina's heart lifted as she walked to her usual corner near the market. Omar could not stop thinking about Mina. He shared her story with his friends and family. "This little girl is very brave," he told them. "She sings every day to afford her mother's medicine, even in rain or heat. We must help her." Soon a small group of kind people gathered, wanting to contribute. Some offered money for medicine, others gave food for Mina and her mother, and a few even promised to check on them regularly. The next day, Mina returned to the street corner. She noticed something different. A few people were waiting near her spot. Omar was among them, smiling warmly, and a small group of strangers stood behind him. They held bags of food and envelopes with money. Mina's eyes widened in surprise. She had not expected anyone to return, and certainly not with so much care and support. Omar stepped forward. "Mina," he said gently, "these people heard your story. They want to help you and your mother. This is for the medicine, and this is for your family's needs." He handed her a small package with neatly wrapped medicine, and another with bread and other food. Mina's hands trembled as she accepted them. Tears welled in her eyes, but she smiled brightly. "Thank you, sir," she said, her voice full of gratitude. One kind woman stepped forward and said, "We want you to know that people care, Mina. Your courage is inspiring. We will help as long as you need." Mina felt warmth spread through her heart. For the first time, she realized that even strangers could care deeply. She had sung for days and months, hoping someone would notice, and now, finally, they had. Mina carefully organized the coins, food, and medicine. She thought of her mother, and how happy she would be to receive these gifts. Her mind raced with ideas about how she could use them wisely. She knew the medicine was the most important, and she saved a little money for future needs. Mina felt a sense of control she had never felt before. Life, which had always been uncertain, now seemed a little brighter. The kindness of Omar and the others changed more than just Mina's situation. It gave her a sense of confidence. She continued to play her guitar, but now she sang with joy, not only for coins but for the hope that her songs could inspire others. People passing by began to notice her more. Some smiled, some clapped, and some even joined her in a simple chorus. Mina's music started to bring small happiness to the town, and she loved seeing people pause and listen. By the end of the day, Mina returned home carrying the medicine, food, and coins. Her mother hugged her tightly. "Mina, this is wonderful. You see, your courage has opened hearts. You have brought people together with your love and music," Layla said softly. Mina nodded, feeling proud. She realized that her singing was not only a way to help her mother, but also a way to spread hope and kindness. That night, Mina thought about the day and the people who had helped her. She understood that courage and determination, combined with a kind heart, could create big changes. She promised herself to keep singing, to keep helping her mother, and to never lose hope. Mina had learned an important lesson. Even the smallest effort, when done with love and persistence, could make a huge difference in the world. And so, with renewed courage and hope, Mina prepared for the next day. Her mission to help her mother was no longer hers alone. It had become a shared effort, a journey supported by people who believed in kindness, love, and the power of a brave heart. After receiving help from Omar and the kind people in the town, Mina felt a new sense of hope and purpose. She woke up early one morning, her small heart full of excitement. The sunlight shone through the little window of her home, and her mother, Layla, smiled at her warmly. "Good morning, my brave girl," she said. Mina hugged her tightly and whispered, "Today I will sing with even more hope." Mina packed her small guitar carefully, tucked a piece of bread into her bag, and walked to her usual corner near the market. The busy streets were already filled with people, merchants calling out to sell their goods, children running to school, and the distant sound of a bell signaling the start of the day. Mina placed her tin cup in front of her and began to play. Her fingers touched the guitar strings gently, and a soft melody floated through the air. Then she sang. Her voice was pure, warm, and full of emotion. Every note carried her story, the struggle, the love for her mother, and the hope that life could become better. This time people noticed more quickly. Some paused mid-step, listening to the young girl who had the courage to sing every day, even in the sun, rain, or cold. A small group of children stopped near Mina, clapping their hands softly to the rhythm. One little boy smiled at her and said, "Your singing is beautiful." Mina returned his smile, feeling her heart lift. She realized that her songs were not only helping her mother, but they were also spreading happiness to others. Each smile, each nod, and each clap encouraged her to sing louder and more confidently. Some adults also began to notice. A shopkeeper leaning out of his store window tapped his foot to the beat, and an elderly woman smiled warmly as she dropped a coin into Mina's tin cup. Mina's eyes brightened and she nodded politely. The coins were helpful, yes, but the smiles and encouragement meant even more. They reminded her that even small acts of kindness could make a big difference. As days passed, Mina continued her routine, but her songs began to draw more attention. People stopped not just to listen, but to talk to her, to learn her story, and to share a word of encouragement. She realized that her music had a power she had never imagined. It could inspire hope, joy, and kindness. She began to enjoy her time on the streets more, not only for the coins she earned, but for the happiness her music brought to the town. One morning, a group of children gathered around Mina and asked her to teach them a simple song. She laughed softly and agreed. She showed them how to strum the strings gently, how to sing with feeling, and how to smile while doing it. Soon the small crowd was singing along with her. The busy street, once filled only with hurried footsteps and noise, was now filled with music and laughter. Mina felt a sense of pride and accomplishment she had never known before. She realized that courage, love, and persistence could change the world in small but meaningful ways. Her songs were no longer just about earning coins for her mother. They were about spreading hope, joy, and positivity to everyone around her. When she returned home that evening, her mother hugged her tightly. "Mina, look at what you are doing. Your courage is inspiring, and your music is bringing happiness to so many people." "You are making a difference," Layla said softly. Mina smiled, feeling proud, but she knew she still had a mission. Her mother's health depended on her, and she would continue to sing every day with love and determination in her heart. Mina went to bed that night feeling happy and hopeful. She had learned that music could heal hearts even when life was difficult. She also understood that kindness could come from unexpected places, and hope could grow when shared with others. Mina knew that her journey was far from over, but she felt stronger and braver than ever. The young girl who once sat alone on the sidewalk, unnoticed by the busy town, was now spreading joy with her voice and her courage. People began to recognize her not only as the girl with the guitar, but as a symbol of hope and love. Mina had discovered that her music had a life of its own, reaching hearts and inspiring smiles wherever she sang.